Hello, I'm Dr. Harper. This video is an Operations Management AMBA 1-year MBA 6270, Spring 2021. This memo is going over Memo 2, Aggregate Planning. So let's bring up the assignment. So in assignment number 2, Crawford Manufacturing is preparing their monthly production plan for one of their major products for next year and requested assistance in determining possible plans of action. They have traditionally used levelized capacity with overtime. So this is what they've traditionally used. Let me underline that. That's going to be important. But members of the planning committee would like to compare current production plans, level capacity, with alternative production plans. 2 have been suggested. One is simply minimum cost production plan. So that's one. So a comparative analysis between levelized capacity and minimum cost. There's 2. Some feel the current amount of overtime is unreasonable due to the level strategy and argue that considerable savings could be realized if overtime was reduced by considering a minimum cost plan. So the next sentence I just gave you, this is a good reason why they would consider something other than level. So each of these plans have positives and negatives. This is one thing they're looking at to investigate. So when they look at comparative analysis, that's one thing that they want to look at. The second alternative reduces inventory to a minimum. Reduces inventory to a minimum. That's the next plan. So now they're looking at level, minimum cost, and reducing inventory. Some argue that flexibility of the current production capacity allows for reducing cost due to carrying cost. The president would like to see a comparative analysis. And let me emphasize that. The whole purpose of this video is a comparative analysis. It is not analyzing and giving them the optimal solution. It's not saying here's the answer. It's not giving recommendations. It's giving them a comparative analysis before deciding on a final plan. She requested the analysis from us, and I said we could provide her with a quality comparative analysis to aid in their decision making. So you're doing a comparative analysis for the purpose and objective of decision making. So this sets the stage. This sets the framework. So make sure that this mood is given in your memo. Okay, then Crawford starts giving us information in the memo here, or I pulled the information from Crawford so we could work the problem. Crawford has provided us with the following information. Labor standard is 50 minutes per unit. Okay, that's going to be important. So let's just start by bringing up Excel. There's Excel, and let's start filling this stuff in. Broadening this. Let's make this bigger. That's bigger. Okay, labor standard. Let's come down here a little ways. Labor standard equals, and it's going to be 50, and this is minutes per unit. Unit, item, same thing. Okay, well, if that's our labor standard, then we can generate or calculate our production standard. But remember, the production standard equals the FTE time standard divided by the labor standard. But our time is in months. And so we want the FTE time standard as months and the labor standard in hours, because this is in minutes. So this is going to equal, well, down here I say that they operate on a 40-hour work week, 52-week year, 12 months per year. So right here we're going to say a 40-hour work week times 52 weeks in a year. That's how many hours in a year they have. Divide that by 12. That's how many hours in a month they have. Then I'm going to divide that by our labor standard, which is 50. But that 50 is in minutes. So I'm going to divide that by 60 to transform it, to convert that into hours. And 208, that's going to be our units per month. And that's what we're going to be using. That's what we're going to be using down here for determine our production, for regular time production. Okay, next, let's go on. The regular time labor cost is $48 per hour. Okay, so our regular time cost equals 48, and that's dollars per hour. Okay. And then our overtime labor cost, overtime cost equals, And that's going to be $72 per hour. Now, we're going to want to use the regular time and overtime cost, but not dollars per hour, dollars per unit of production. Okay, so down here we want to say, what's our regular time cost, which will be $48 per hour, but then how many hours per unit? Well, it's times our labor standard, which is 50 minutes per unit. Divide that by 60 to transform it into hours again, and that 40 is my dollars per unit of production. Same with overtime. Overtime cost equals the $72 per hour times the labor standard, divide by 60 to transfer minutes to hours. Again, that's dollars per unit. Okay, good. So we have these costs now. Let's move on. The inventory carrying cost is $9 per item per month. Okay, we can put that in here. Our carrying cost equals $9. That is dollars per item per month. And again, items and units are equivalent. Two words for the same thing. Items per month. But then if that's true, well, the way we use carrying cost, we can do it per month, but I'm just going to do it per year here. So our carrying cost is also equals $9 per item per month times 12. This will be dollars per item per year. And that's what I'll be using in the analysis. The FTE standard is 520 hours, the 40-hour work week. We've already done that. For planning purposes, next year they will begin the year with an inventory of 2,000, and they have targeted an ending annual inventory of 1,200. Okay, here we go. Our beginning inventory and our ending inventory. It's 2,000 and 1,200. Okay, we got that. The regular time production capacity is limited to 20 FTEs per month. Aha. So now we have a max FTE equals 20 FTEs per month. Okay. So, but we're going to be using production. Okay, so this will be a max regular time production equals 20 FTEs per month times our production standard up here of, let's enlarge this. Our production standard up here of, where is it? Here it is, 208 units per month. So it's 4,160 units per month. So that's going to be our max regular time production. So if we're maxed at a capacity of 20 FTEs, and each FTE is 208 units, 208 units per month, then our max production will be 4,160 units per month. Good. Good. So let's go on. Let's see. The overtime is limited 25% of regular time production in each month. Oh, okay. Now we have a max overtime production, which is 0.25 of the regular time production per month. Regular time production plan per month. There we go. Since labor hours per week are flexible, there is no hiring or firing cost. For this analysis, only consider cost due to regular time labor, overtime labor, inventory carrying. The demand for next year is presented in the table. Okay, so let's format this a little bit. Let's take these right here and go right justify. Let's make these right justify, what's next to the units left justify, just to clean it up a little bit, and I think that looks better. So now we can tell what's what and where is it at. So these are the values we'll be using. So let's box this in because this will be important to do the analysis. Okay, so next, let's bring in the demand. So we highlight the month in demand, Control C. We bring this over here, full screen this. Let me put it up here, out of the way. Control V and paste it. Control C again, down to here, and let's transpose it. Make sure it is numerical, and there's our demand. Okay, so now we are good to go, and now let's fill this in. Well, we know that we're going to have a regular time production plan, an overtime production plan, and that's pretty much what this, we're going to box this in. This will be our decision variables. These will be the cells we will want to change. Okay. And then we will have the regular time max, and we have the overtime max, because we know what those are. This is production, regular time production, overtime production max. And as a max, the regular time is going to equal, where'd it go? Here it is, 4160. So let's just bring this all the way down, all 12 months. There we go. Now the overtime max equals 25% of the regular time production. That equals 25 F4 times the regular time production, which is that. And that's going to be our regular time max. And there it is. Very good. Good to go. And then we're going to have, what is left? Beginning inventory, ending inventory. Our beginning inventory equals a 2,000 up here. And now do our conservation equations, equilibrium equations. Let's bring this over so you can see what's happening here. Ending inventory will equal beginning inventory plus production, which is overtime production plus regular time production minus the demand. Then copy that down all 12 months, and there it is. The beginning inventory in every month equals the ending inventory of the preceding month, and copy that down. And now we've set up all the connections, pretty much all the connections we need. We have production, regular time overtime, max regular time overtime, and inventory. Okay, but now we need the costs. Now we have an objective here. So down here, let's sum this. Sum all of this, and there it is. Then copy the sum over for regular time and overtime, because we're going to have our unit costs here. For regular time, the unit cost per unit produced is, what is it? Regular time per unit is 40. And overtime, the unit cost per overtime unit produced is 60. And then the total down here equals the total FTEs, or the total production times unit cost. Copy that over. Okay. And then we have our inventory. Here we have our average. And we're going to average all 24 cells to make sure we get everything. And then you have our unit cost here. Let me say unit cost equals, for the year, where's it at? His carrying cost per year is $108 per item per year. And then the total equals our average inventory times our unit cost. Good. Then over here I have our grand total will equal inventory cost plus overtime plus regular time cost. There's our grand total. And we'll box this in because this is what we want to minimize. Minimize the total cost. And there it is. So now reduce this down a little bit, because now I think we're ready for the for solver. Okay, so let's come up to data, over to solver, and we want, there's our objective function right there. We want to minimize that by changing these cells, record time and overtime. There they are. Now we want to add our constraints. Well, we know our regular time production will be less than or equal to our regular time maximum. Add overtime production is less than or equal to our overtime maximum. Add, move this out of the way, our ending inventory here is greater than or equal to 0, and add, and then our ending inventory has a targeted value up here of, where's it at? Here it is, 1200. Okay. Unconstrained variables, make sure this is a simplex algorithm. Say solve, and it says solver found a solution, all constraints and optimality conditions are satisfied. Let's keep this thing, and that looks right to me. So there's the first one. So now we've done the minimum cost. Okay, so now let's come down and say, okay, but we want a comparative analysis between this minimum cost plan. We've done that first, and a level plan, and then a inventory to a minimum. Okay, so we can do that. Let's bring this back right here. So this is our minimum cost. Okay, and let me bold that. This is our minimum cost plan, and there it is. So let's box this in, because that's one we want to use. Okay, so the next is level. So let's just create a new spreadsheet and copy everything over. There we go. And now we're in spreadsheet number 2, and let's make this, rename this level capacity. And actually, let's go sheet 1, rename this to minimum cost. Okay, so here, well, the record time production will be equal average of all of these. And notice it's 4766, which is more than 4160. Okay, so now we know if it's level capacity, then this has to equal 4160, and that equals this, and just copy this down. All those have to be 4160. But now we have the overtime. Okay, and so what I'm going to be doing here is, let's say data, solver, and let's just reset everything, start from scratch. We want to minimize our total cost, minimize, but this time by changing cells, by changing just our overtime, because our regular production plan is all set. That's not going to change. Now we add our constraints. Our overtime is less than or equal to our overtime max. Add our ending inventory is greater than or equal to 0. Add, and our ending inventory here has a targeted value of, where's it at up here? Here it is, 1200. Okay, and we have unconstrained variables, simplex, we say solve, and so found a solution. So there it is, And there, that would be the minimum cost for level capacity. Now, and this is level capacity. Okay, it's level capacity because right there, this is all level. Okay, now so notice I minimize the total cost here. Okay, the grand cost. But you may not do that. You might just, this could be anything. So every person might have a different cost here. They might have a different overtime. They might have, as long as the inventory doesn't go negative, okay, so different people have different things because it's a memo. There's no one answer. But this is a viable answer for level capacity. Okay, the next is minimum inventory. So let's go back to the minimum cost. Control, left click, drag this over. And now let's rename this into minimum inventory. Okay, let's make this minimum inventory. So what does that mean? Okay, well, right here, again, different people could do different things. You might want to minimize the cost. You might want to create this. You want to minimize the inventory here. This could be an objective function. Okay, minimize all this inventory. Or you might have a cap inventory. Okay, this number right here, we can cap that and make all this inventory here less than or equal to that and minimize the cap. So that's type of a goal program. But what I'm going to do, just to keep it simple, I'm going to go back to solver. Remember, this is minimum cost. Go back to solver. Everything is already there. What I'm going to do is just change my objective function. Instead of minimizing the total cost right here, I'm just going to minimize, let's see, my average inventory. And then say go. Okay, and so right there, I'll say I've minimized my average inventory. And so now that's the way I interpreted minimum inventory. Okay, so now we have 3 production plans: minimum cost, level capacity, minimum inventory. Now we compare. Okay, so how do you compare? Well, we don't do this. Let me get this out of there. So how do we compare? Well, they're looking at cost. They're looking at overtime. We look at overtime here. Minimum cost, there's our overtime, $7,990. Here is our $10,000 for minimum inventory. Is $64,800. The overtime is even less than these others. Okay, so level capacity is where you stabilize your labor. Minimum cost, you focus on the cost. Minimum inventory, you focus on the inventory. So we have 3 different emphasis. Okay, your labor, your inventory, and your cost. So those three costs. So that's probably something they would want to compare. So that's something you can decide on what to compare. I would say what I would suggest, things like looking at the overtime here. The overtime is all different on all 3. And then looking at the inventory levels here, maybe the average inventory here is 15, average inventory here is 21. Well, level capacity, the inventory is the most, even though the overtime is the least. For minimum cost, for minimum inventory, it's the least, of course, but the overtime is the most. Okay, and then minimum cost is in between both. Okay, so you have 2 spectrums here. Minimum inventory, level capacity, minimum cost in the middle. So you compare them. So you're not making a decision for them. They're making the decision. You're saying, here's a comparative analysis of these 3. Here's the level of overtime, the average inventory, and the cost here. Here's the cost of overtime. So you can look at the cost comparison, the actual overtime production comparisons, the average inventory comparisons, and somehow put that together in a presentation. That's what the memo is about. So I hope this helps. So this can be done, and I would suggest that you take your time, even though this is due a certain due date and time. Take your time, have it done, do it as well as you can, spend time on it, get on the Q&A, work in your groups, work between the groups, within the group and between the groups, and get the memo as sharp as you can and the video as sharp as you can. Okay, I'm pretty sure there was a video. There should be. This is one you should have a video. Let's see here. Prepare a video presentation using PowerPoint slides. Yes, because this is the heart of aggregate planning. It's the heart of operations. It's the heart of business value. And it's the heart of it's the hub of everything connecting together. You can do your marketing over here. You can do your finance over here. You can do your HR over here. But this ties everything together. So I hope this helps. And between now and the next time I see you, I want to urge you, take your time, make sure the memo, the response technical memo, and the video is as good as you can get it to your satisfaction. And make it yours. Make it your presentation. So this is all I have. I hope this helps. Between now and next time I see you, take care.